Hell yeah. You made it to a bonus episode of the Stories in the Cemetery podcast. So, surprise. These episodes are launched completely random in between our bi-weekly episodes. The bonus episodes are welcoming special guests that are innovating the paranormal field either with a new invention, idea, or proven theory. Not just folks with paranormal evidence. Hell, we all have that already. If you enjoy this episode and want to learn more or connect with our guest, be sure to check the show notes for all of their info. To stay focused on the guest, these episodes will be ad-free. If you are a candidate for becoming a guest on the podcast, reach out to us at storiesinthecemetery@gmail.com with subject line podcast guest, and we'll reach out if you can pique our interest. Let's get into our interview with Nick and Josh.
Hey guys, and welcome to another bonus episode. Yep, we threw another one at you. Figured why the hell not. This bonus episode is an interview that Josh did on his podcast, Tales from a Ghosthunter. So if you're not listening to another badass podcast, then you need to stop right now and head over to wherever you listen to your podcasts and look up Tales from a Ghosthunter and subscribe and come back. We'll wait. So now that you are subscribed to get notifications about Josh's personal podcast from Tales from a Ghosthunter, this is an interview, more of a conversation, really, that he had with Barry Fitzgerald, a member of the Ghosthunters International TV show team, as you may recognize from the graphic that we made for this episode. This particular conversation that Josh had with Barry is absolutely phenomenal. If you've been listening to the podcast with me and Josh this year, then I'm sure you've noticed a lot of the very big science talk that we put in behind our ghost hunting methods. This conversation with Barry is exactly that. Listening to somebody else on the same wavelength and methodologies that Josh and I use, it is, I think the term I'm looking for is heartwarming. I hope you enjoy this interview. I hope you subscribe to Tales from a Ghosthunter, and make sure that you are leaving us a review wherever you listen to podcasts, even if it's just hitting that 5-star ranking. It really helps push us through on the algorithms of your podcatchers. So here we go. Here's Josh speaking with Barry Fitzgerald from his Tales from a Ghosthunter podcast.
That I can't define. What is this I'm seeing? Is it all just in my mind? It's from the cosmos or from another time. Seeing is believing, and it's one of a kind.
Hey guys, Tales from Ghosthunter here. I know this is only episode 8, but I think we're finally starting to hit our stride. Some of you guys just may have heard the new music for the opening of the podcast. So that is compliments of Jay the Owl. Check him out on Spotify, Amazon, or anywhere else you get your music. Today's episode is going to be about Barry Fitzgerald from Ghosthunters International. We're going to talk through some shared theories that we both kind of have, and conversation gets really interesting, guys. So I look forward to comments and what you guys think about it.
Like to be respectful of you and everyone else's time and space, especially because, there's just so much going on in the paranormal world with all that.
Believe me, I'm suffering from dyslexia. A name goes in one ear and out the other. and I need to record as many things as I can, so that I can go back on, because the amount of times my wife tells me things, and of course, I should be listening. Um,
I hear that. Oh, all right. Diving right in.
okay.
So you, in an interview, I believe it said in 2013, stated that you thought ultraviolet light was harmful to spirits.
Yes.
So I would love to know what your theory is on that, because I've literally gone through and kind of broken it down in the science and have been testing this theory for almost as long as you've had the theory as well. I started ghost hunting.
There you go, Joshua. You're back again.
Yeah,
You froze there. You weren't able to finish your question, and then all of a sudden you just froze.
yeah. Yeah.
So to directly get back to your question in regards to UV light, yes, I was saying that was the light source itself was creating a safe zone. Didn't fully understand at the very beginning why was it creating a safe zone. It just was. And we were also able to see that the reverse light, the infrared, was having an effect on this scale. So either side was opposed by the opposite light. I said, okay, this is a very unusual thing to be in. And as the work progressed on, and I have a book coming out, I'm really starting to try and push it now for this year, but I'm not so sure. It might be the beginning of next year. And it's called Born to Serve, and it looks at this aspect of the UV and how it connects with something else that we've found is very, very um, beneficial to those who are suffering manifestation in their homes, or workplaces or wherever they may be. And that was with iron. Now, the two worked together, and we're like, why? Why does iron repel these buggers that will invade our nightly space where we think we should be safe in our bedrooms? What is it about iron that's repelling these things? We discovered the more work that I was putting into it, the more this started to come forward, in that the iron works in conjunction with the ultraviolet, and it's all about the oxidization. That is what scares the bejesus out of these things, because it's that can cause harm. So when for instance the particular say for instance we look at this aspect of incubus succubus, this nighttime attack that comes in, 9 times out of 10 it attacks women, but it will attack women more so during their monthly cycles when they become anemic. So the iron has lowered. They wait until the gate is open, and that's when they attack. But combining the iron with the ultraviolet light, it creates an oxidization in which they cannot stand. And so that's where I was finding that the two of these things were working together, and creating this, I suppose, safe zone, if you like. Now, the atmosphere in itself, at night on the surface of the planet, there's always UV light there. But in combination with the iron, we've seen that was very, very effective. When you go underground, however, and you're wearing the likes of an iron amulet, and you're partially anemic, or worse still, you're fully anemic, yeah, that doesn't work. So when you rob the ultraviolet light out of the equation, and you enter the tunnel systems, or you go into the cave systems, yeah, you're on your own on that particular aspect. But this is only when they manifest. So the UV in itself will work together, providing there's a manifestation. Up until that particular point, there's nothing. They will simply pull back. And I remember years ago, during one of the investigations, and I can't just remember exactly which one it was, there was this information was brought forward that the light spectrums were acting on them during the manifestation like like acid would to our skin. And it made sense then whenever we connected the two together to see the oxidization, the cause and effect of oxidization and how it breaks them down. And so that started to make sense. But of course, through the light spectrums, then we started to see, well, it's harder actually for the higher communication to lower itself down to communicate with us. That it has to come further than the lower light source, the infrared.
Right.
So the likes of the old seance rooms and things like that, especially in Europe here, they were keen on using the red lights, and the red light was easier to reach for the lower spectrum. Now, whenever I say low spectrum and high spectrum, I have to make the stipulation that we're looking at the same source of the phenomenon. It from the data that we've been collecting and piecing together, this looks like it's all coming from the same place.
Right.
And we've got these interactions and masks and interpretations of what we think it is. Strip that away, it looks like we're dealing with the same blasted thing. Whether it be good, whether it be bad, whether it be anything at all, it's coming from the same source. So the way it interacts with the light spectrums and things like that is a unique opportunity to witness this. But we also have to remember, hold on, folks, it's all the same.
Wow. That's really interesting because so I've been working with UV light and have come up with a theory. So I'm going to shut this light off back here. I could see it like blinding behind my head every time I move. So I've been working with this theory that UV light is harmful to spirits, and I use a black light on investigations to
Yes.
test it. So if I've had like someone scratched, I would turn on, like, everybody would have black lights, and I'd be like, all right, let's turn all the lights on. And it felt like there was like a thickness in the air. Everything got really heavy. All of a sudden it was that like walk through water motion kind of deal. And then when we shut the lights off, it all dissipated. So I started looking at the science behind this, and I said, well, UV light, is harmful to us. It's harmful to our skin. So what's to say it's not harmful to spirit?
Yeah.
So I started looking into what would make that work. And basically my theory is if a spirit is a bubble of EMF radiation, and they're just free floating, which according to science doesn't happen, but it makes complete sense when you really look at it.
Yes.
If that's what they are, and you expose EMF radiation bubbles to blacklight, it goes through the process of ionization, and it's deionizing. So it deionizes that field and basically strips it of energy.
Yes.
So this explains why we have more activity at night. This explains my friend's theory, because he ghost hunts for a living. He does it 200 and some odd nights of the week or the year, and he did a full moon study. Right, so a full moon has less activity, and a new moon has more activity, according to all the information he's put together. Because he also put together a scoring system to keep track of how haunted an investigation is, and use that to kind of prove the theory. And like I said, this correlates directly with what I'm talking about with EMF, or ionization, blacklight. And when you look at like the UV spectrum of the day, I figured out 10 to 20% of the UV index is what reflects off the moon. So I figured out the equation that would allow you to know what your UV index is at any given night. And it ranges from like 1 to 5. It's very, very low. During the day, the UV index can get up to like 15, 16. On its worst days, it's only gotten to like an 18. Using a black light on an UV index meter actually maxes it to 20, which basically means that the best way we have to, in a way, defend ourselves from violent spirits would be a UV light.
Hmm.
And ionization happens at an atomic level, so it happens so quickly that it doesn't take more than just kind of swiping across them with it to cause that effect.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
So, and
interesting that we're coming at it from different perspectives, but we're seeing the same thing.
yeah. Yeah, and I think it honestly, if we look farther into it, I'm sure there's a lot more correlation with what you're saying as far as like the iron getting into that. It
Yeah.
could probably just make a stronger um, reaction, honestly.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it
And that's exactly it, because when you apply iron to an EMF, you boost the signal.
yeah.
So it would make sense that way. And also there was something I came across recently, and it was some type of device. I think it was I can't remember the name of it, but they were pulsing some frequency into a haunted environment, and they were finding that they weren't getting any results. They were expecting the whole place to go alive,
Mhm.
and actually it was ionizing the the environment that they were in, and saying, no, well, of course it's not going to appear there, because you're destroying what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
um so it's interesting how that's all going. But there was one thing there that you were talking about, and in regards to spirits. This is something we talk about in the book. In today's society, we've grown up in using spirits and soul, and how it's become amalgamated to mean pretty much the same thing.
Hmm.
It's not. And that's something that we need to go back and readdress, and understand that. And when we split that apart, we find out that we're actually not dealing with the spirits. We're dealing with this other aspect. And how that there's a biological implication here, which is groundbreaking, and how it's going to make us understand the paranormal in ways that we didn't even conceive before. Uh, so, in that particular aspect, when we break that component apart, and recognize the spirit for what it is, but at death the spirit is gone. It's boop. It shoots out of you like a cannon.
Hmm.
However, this other aspect doesn't. It lingers for days to several weeks, until the degradation of the body reaches a certain point in which it's released.
Huh.
This is something we have known about, our ancestors have known about for thousands of years, and how they were, and they built specific temples and places in which they could go to commune with this knowledge, and how that knowledge appeared, and what was communicated. But there's a price to pay. Always is. And this one's very big. It's a huge price. So when we split it apart and we start then questioning what's coming through, because there are many times, you'll understand this, you've been at it long enough, that when you pressure this spirit, um, it will start to back off, especially if you become suspicious of it. Wait,
Hmm.
like Columbo. One more thing, and it'll go. It does not. It wants you to swallow the pill. And I've always said time and time again, if something is there for your positive endearment, that it's not going to mind a few questions for clarity. But 9 times out of 10, they're gone when we start applying the thumb screw. Um, but yeah, so that's there's just a little thing for you to consider there, moving forward, if it's any use to you.
No, everything so far has been of use to me. It's great to be able to talk to somebody who is on kind of like the same page as what I'm doing.
Mhm.
Because most people look at it and I tell them like, yeah, I'm working on this theory, applying science to it and trying to figure it out.
Yeah.
And they look at me and like, oh, you don't just walk around and ask questions in the dark? Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
it's, yeah. And I mean, I have looked farther and farther and farther into it all, and it all just makes so much sense. I mean, they even found there was a study done just a few years ago where they figured out that dogs can see into the IR spectrum,
That's right.
um, and the EM spectrum. So the EM
Hmm.
spectrum makes complete sense because we always have those. Oh, well, my animal stares at the corner, and it makes
Something
complete
to remember
sense.
here, and there's something else that'll be of interest to you as well, and what you're
Mm,
and where you're coming from. Don't forget the olfactory senses within their noses. They smell
mhm.
it.
Yeah.
There's smell that comes with it that many times during manifestation we have lost it. If we are at the point where it manifests, then we smell it. But
Hmm.
when it dissipates within the environment, then we're not strong enough to smell it, but the dogs do.
Yes.
And that's worth looking into as well. And certainly would indicate why a lot of dogs are being targeted in various locations, ranches, and everything else. They take the dogs out first before they go for the
Hmm.
people.
Yeah, because they know they're there. It's
Yeah, exactly,
taking away the
exactly.
warning system.
Uh-huh, uh-huh. Yeah, very much so.
Yeah, and um, something else I was also looking a lot at is part of the EM field is obviously thermal imaging, which is why we see some decent evidence actually come out of a thermal imaging camera.
Mm,
But none of them are you. Obviously, it's not as fun to look at, so you don't see anybody walking around
yeah.
filming an entire investigation in thermal.
Mhm, mhm.
Not to mention the battery life on a lot of thermal cameras is absolute crap.
Yeah, yeah. There's also the thing as well, when the manifestation begins, if it doesn't want, and more times than not, it has no wish to be recorded.
Mhm.
It will stay the hell away. I've had encounters on tops of mountains here where physically I can see two people. Clearly, they're different because one's wearing a lighter colored jacket than the other. One's smaller than the other. Yet when I pick up the camera and I go to take a photograph, there's only one. And I look again and I say, no, there's two. There's two people here. No, there's only one. And that I was able to establish is the reason why they hate cameras, because the cameras can't be messed with. They can mess with us consciously. And so I was seeing two, but in reality, there was only one. And the camera captured the one. So they find it difficult to interfere. They can, of course, interfere with technology, but they find it more difficult to interfere with technology than they can with us.
Right.
And makes it much more acceptable when we consider the likes of people in ufology and things like that who say, well, I saw a cylinder. Well, no, because I saw a disc, and no, I saw a star. So you get different people. It's all the conscious connection. It's how they
Right.
connect with you, and all it takes is 20 seconds. And this is the damning thing. When we have these encounters, whether it be with spirit, whether it be with jinn or fairy or aliens or whatever the hell it be, um, we've got 20 seconds. And if we're not listening to our instinct, then that's overridden. And we see that time and time again where the brain pattern will change after 20 seconds, throw you into theta, and that's it, game's over. So if we're not listening to that instinct within the first 20 seconds to determine, is this good for me or is this bad for me?
Yeah.
Um, then we've lost the game already.
Yeah. No, very true. It's really interesting to me the connections we're able to make because I've had similar experiences where you see spirit, you see somebody there, but then you can't record it.
Mhm,
Um,
mhm,
and I was just in an investigation this year in Arizona, and I went out to the city of Vulture and then did an investigation there, and
mhm.
I had nothing but technical problems the entire
Oh
night.
yeah,
They shut all my cameras off.
yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
and
We
I
were we were out in Spain there at a location. It was a portal, and we had tracked it down, and it's really remote. And physically it was tough to get to, but my God, it really handed us our asses. And we weren't meant to see the things that we saw, uh, but it's part and parcel of how far you're willing to go for it,
yeah.
and how much you want to challenge it. And I will challenge it. No longer do I say, "Oh, it's great Aunt Betty," and No, it'll get challenged, and we'll see how authentic it is after the challenge.
Yeah. Now, what's your theory as far as like because I've obviously with the UV light, I've been working on trying to find somebody that can help me build something that I would call like a UV bomb, something that almost like the Ghost Hunter Ghostbusters device. They slide it out on the floor, and except instead of it sucking something in, it would just kind of like blow up
Hmm.
this UV light that would fill the room
Hmm.
to a point where everybody would probably need glasses for it to even be on.
Yeah,
Um,
you can, there is UV light, near UV, which is not as damaging. You use it in the black lights and in the clubs and stuff like
right.
that. I found that just to be as effective.
Okay.
Because once that's switched on, boom, that's it. It will pull back. And I've even been in a situation where it spat at the light.
Hmm.
It tried to get that light out as best it could, because it was trying to actually get to a woman who was in the middle of the room, and it couldn't get to her. It couldn't manifest to get to her, because it was damaging. So as far as going into the greater UV light and beyond, I don't think we actually need to go that far. Seeing the results of that continuously in the field, that the black light was, I found, was decent enough. But of course, that's only a short stop. That's only a short gap, or stopgap, sorry, in having to deal with the phenomena. And of course, then we lead ourselves into another situation. And okay, well, I've been researching for 10 years, and this is working. What next? What's your next step? Once you establish,
Yeah.
okay, there's something here. How do we deal with that? Unlike yourself, who now is understanding, okay, now I'm understanding the breakdowns of this phenomena, and looking for its weakness. There are people within the field, as you know, who have not a clue whatsoever what to do, or what signatures there are, that can actually solidify the fact that, yes, you're dealing with something that's not psychosis, and everything else that can go into that camp.
Right. Now, obviously, through this theory, I've been able to kind of just pinpoint like this is what I think spirit is, or what the entity we're dealing with is compiled of.
Hmm.
Um, what is your thoughts on creating essentially the Ghostbusters trap? The something that would contain an EMF radiation bubble or ghost in this scenario.
I don't think it ever will. Um, I know you're using terms such as EMF and things like that. When we start getting down into the fundamental basis of it, that's not necessarily what we're seeing. Um, on the outer fringes of it, yes, we're seeing the same phenomena, but we're focusing in slightly more on the biology of this phenomenon. I know that you're saying it's EMF and stuff like that, but we've got other key information that has come forward indicating where this is coming from,
Mhm.
geographically, where it's coming from. It's not coming from another dimension. It's not coming from across the gulf of space. It's here, and we've put a lot of information together to say this is where it's coming from. So that places it in a different environment to what you're saying. And I'm not saying that you're wrong. I could be wrong. It's like everything else. We won't know until we get into the nitty gritty of it.
True.
But it'll be interesting to see if the river is a trap that is designed to hold that. My take on it is looking at all of the esoteric underpinnings that fills this investigative field. We've been told, like the great, I can't remember his name now, from England, Aleister Crowley. Um, he went through all these great practices and everything else, and set up all these protocols, and went through all of that, and safeguards to try and harness this manifestation and make sure that he was safe, of course, in his little circle, his bubble. And all it did was step out of its bubble, absolutely deranged that he had summoned it, walked across into his and beat the shit out of him. So for me, we're looking at rules that either is being passed to us from this phenomena, which in itself is nothing more than just writing on the wall, and or it's writings that we're putting in place trying to understand the phenomena, and both can be very detrimental if not taken cautiously. And I see this time and time again, and the likes of the skull experiments that were being conducted in the United Kingdom back in 1985, a fantastic set of experiments that were being done, that where manifestation was appearing, where objects were moving, where objects were manifesting and demanifesting, and entities were appearing on camera. And all of this was going on for 5 years, and I have the diary of that experiment on my shelf there behind me, and I went through the 5 years worth of information, and it was interesting seeing at the beginning they were being told beautiful knowledge that's coming from the world of spirits and everything else, that it completely turned on its head by the time we got to year 5. And it was clear that there was a huge level of deception that was involved. And they were told, oh, well, this is it. It's over. We can't communicate anymore. And one of the things that appeared was a blue alien. They called him Blue. And they were told there's no more communication. It's all stopped now. There'll be nothing more. You can't talk to anybody ever again. And the experiment came to a finish. Now, the people who had organized that particular experiment moved out to Spain, and they set up another circle, psychic circle out there. Guess who appeared? Blue. I said, oh, well, number one, what the hell is an alien doing in a seance room? But the fact that they were told you won't have any more communications, and suddenly now, well, here's another one. And it's the same one from before who told us we couldn't appear. Lies after lies after deception after deception after deception. And this is why it's imperative that we test the things, because sooner or later it's going to show its full value.
Wow, that's insane. Now, in your travels, your experimentation, your years of really looking in depth into this, do you believe that we have kind of like a space to go after we pass? Do we stay kind of in the same area but on a different plane of existence? What do you think really happens in that point?
Well, after making this revelation that we needed to separate the soul from the spirit, the soul is not ours, never was. And this raises a very interesting question whenever we start considering symbiotic relationships, and discovering that, well, wait a minute, there are other things living within our bodies that we didn't know was there. And then whenever we consider the whole spirit thing, my I suppose my annoyance wasn't with spirit. I have no problem with it. At point of death, it goes and goes wherever it's going. Wherever it's going, I have no idea, because I wasn't. This particular publication that we're working on wasn't focused on the spirit. It was focused on this other, and understanding how the psychic abilities manifest and where it's coming from, and the result of it, and everything else. Clearly, it was showing that these psychic abilities are not ours, and how they manifest, and the trigger mechanisms for that, was a very interesting perspective for us. But the idea of spirit going on to somewhere else, that's brilliant. That's wonderful. Again, I don't have a problem with it. It goes somewhere, I don't know where, because I never looked into it. Because again, the spirit I see as something being positive. It's beautiful. It's out there. I leave it alone. What I'm interested in is the one that was causing us harm, and not all always, but there is a certain number that are problematic, and how we identify those, where it goes, how it goes, and everything else, um, is uh, is certainly up for debate.
Interesting. Now, the split that you're talking about, does that in theory prove like why we have, ghosts that we end up interacting with? And then you have the whole scenario of like reincarnation where people remember a past life, as it's basically like two separate pieces that have divided and done different journeys or different things.
Yeah, certainly from my perspective, I'm seeing that everything that we are dealing with is the other. It is not the spirit. We do not communicate with spirit once it's gone. What is left behind is the other, and it's that we're dealing with. Every piece of communication that we have going through is it. The memories that it took from the symbiosis is returned. They can be returned back again, and they'll eventually fade out. Especially with children around the ages of 4, it tends to dissipate, and they forget, because the process wasn't completed properly. But we live in a world today in which a lot of people are saying, well, it's they feel this and they feel that, and a lot of it, when we strip it back and we look at it at its fundamental basis, we're looking at oppression. 100 years ago, we'd already got this titled, but in modern psychiatry, we're not allowed to do that. You can't do that. Psychiatry now, the amount of people who are having first-term psychotic events has jumped through the roof, especially in the United States. And psychiatry isn't working. It's not working because they're not identifying the psychosis. The first-time psychotic event is the phenomena. And people who are experiencing and conduct meditation. This is another perfect example of, we're not told of the side effects of meditation. No one has told us that up to 10% of the people who practice normal run-of-the-mill meditation can actually have encounters with phenomena that we know as the paranormal. And it can mess them up completely for months, if not for the rest of their lives. That's 10% of the people that practice. And we're not being told, you need to know the warnings for doing this.
Yeah.
CE5 is another perfect example. People go out and they'll use laser pens or flashlights, and they make contact with something above them. That in itself is just a manifestation. They're being fooled. But what it does is open the door to the encounter. And that is the same phenomena. It's just a different interpretation. And when we go back and we strip this back and we look at the way that it interacts with us, forget the appearance that it takes, whether it be a little girl or a dog or an alien or whatever the hell it appears at. If you strip the mask away and look at it from the fundamental basics of how it interacts with us, that's how we track it. We couldn't track this through the ages by using the mask in which we interpret it as, because those masks can change several times in one generation. But when we track it by the phenomena in which it interacts with us, that's how we tracked it back beyond Babylon. That's how we know it's been going on for thousands of years, and we've been played.
Interesting. So, based on kind of your research and things you've done, do you believe that all like paranormal phenomenon is correlated and related? Aliens, spirits, demons, cryptids, like, is it all just the same kind of?
There is a thread that connects them all together. A thread of similar experiences, like Bigfoot encounters, for instance. Those people who have encounters after the 20 seconds. After the 20 seconds has passed, that can last for the rest of their lives. They'll have encounters in which suddenly They're whacked. They're totally relaxed and laid into the situation, laid into the encounter. And we find that this also appears within ufology. It also appears within a lot of the metaphysical works, within the paranormal. We find that people are already being switched down. Their reactions are being switched off, and it's the same keys that are being used. It's just the way that we're interpreting them, whether it be our fault or whether it be the way that it wishes to be interpreted. Many of the times I find that it's the way that it wishes to be interpreted, because on the side of the mountain, as I was telling you about just a while ago, two people appeared on the mountain, but the camera showed me one. They wanted to show me how they wanted me to see it. And that's not in reality what was actually there. The problem is that this particular phenomena can impose, once it makes the conscious connection, it can create an environment in which there is nothing there, but it's all in here. It plays out in our consciousness. So we see it, we hear it, we smell it, but it's not there. None of the equipment picks it up because the conscious connection has already been established. So not only do we have the problem with the phenomena that we produce, we also have the phenomena which it produces, and then when you start rolling into groups of people being there, then it just accelerates. The phenomena wants people there. It wants, and a lot of the times, it will want people to worship it. And we see this time and time again. Bring people, bring people. Not a lot of people, but enough to sustain it. And we see this time and time again. There are similar actions right across the world, in which this phenomenon manifests and will manifest on, above, or in stone, whether it be caves, whether it be rock plateaus, whether it be rock buildings, stone buildings. All of this phenomena, a lot of it will appear above, in, or around stone. And there's a connection to where it comes from. So yeah, it has been useful in trying to decipher this and trying to make this next step, because like you can see the grey is getting into the beard there, and and both myself and my research colleague Steve Mira, we have concerns that after our episode in Spain, we got our asses handed to us. What do we do with this? Who do we sign this stuff over to? Because looking at the kids that are coming behind, we're not seeing a lot of folks coming into this now, who may learn something from this, and carry that on.
Yeah.
So we just don't know. We fear for the future there, I suppose, because we need to understand the threat.
No, completely understandable. I mean, I know we touched on this a little bit as we were messaging back and forth, and it is concerning because you have all these people that are going straight into it, and all of a sudden I'm a ghost hunter. I run around in the dark and scream
Hmm.
and yell, and you have, for lack of better terminology, it's 1,000 Zach Baggins,
Yeah.
running around on the
Hmm.
internet.
Hmm.
And I completely understand you. I mean, my my colleague and I, Nicholas McGurr, he is creating a paranormal investigators almanac, where we're putting a lot of the scientific stuff into it in
Hmm.
articles to show people,
Hmm.
that there's more to all of this than running around in the dark. Like
Yeah.
it's not just there so you can laugh and be afraid. It's, we're trying to show you the science behind it and what's actually going on so that we
Yeah.
can
The
continue to
amount of
progress
time.
it.
Yeah, the amount of time that I've been to locations, and I've tried the best that I can to be protected. I've brought it home. We can attract it, and these young ones who are coming out for, pardon my English, for shits and giggles, don't understand that you can bring it home. And what do you do once it's home? And in your territory, it's a different ball game then, especially when there's kids or others in the house.
Yeah. Yeah, that's honestly at least one thing I can say. Like, I've never been able to bring anything home. Nothing has ever shown or gone home with me, and I don't know if it's how I deal with it.
Yeah.
But obviously I'm not yelling and screaming at it like some of these guys are. So, and I mean, I walked into your house and I was like, "Hey, motherfucker,"
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
I think I'd go kick your ass too.
yeah,
So,
yeah, 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 absolutely. But yeah, I've came across various different examples of the phenomena in my time, and the likes of the French tunnel systems under Paris and stuff like that, where
Mhm.
I've encountered it, and it's interesting that the Parisians, they've got this sign up: anyone with heart complaints should not come down here. And I've said, well, that's a strange thing to have up there, until we had our encounter with the phenomenon and realized it's targeting our hearts.
Oh, wow.
And it's a silent killer. And we think about people who have died in their beds. How many died at the hands of the phenomena? We just certainly don't know, because it
Yeah.
it leaves no trace behind. We don't know what horrific experience they were going through.
Yeah.
And none of our people who study the bodies after death, are thinking, of course, in the same line as we are.
No, of course. Yeah. Wow. That's a really interesting take on it. I mean, I honestly never thought about it that way. That
Yeah.
makes it a whole new terrifying experience.
But
Uh,
yeah, so that's that.
so what is it you think you're interacting with then if you go to an old barracks and you're looking for we're like, oh well, there was the ghost of Sergeant this, and the this guy died by canner fire, and like, are we actually talking to those individuals, or is it just some kind of cumulative energy?
No, it's the phenomenon itself, that you're communicating with. And again, it can manifest on what it wants it to be, and that can be problematic. The the phenomena can appear pretty much anywhere as anything. And for us here in the old country, we've got these stone mounds that predate the Great Pyramids of Giza, and we've got the phenomena that appears from it, that will make its way onto the landscape, and we see it. We see it with our own eyes.
Mhm.
And it'll come in all forms. It'll be like people like us in solid state. It'll be people like us, or it can manifest as lights in the sky, um, painting out a grid on the landscape, looking for something we don't even know what. Um, but I noticed though, um, that the moment that we became suspicious of the phenomena years ago, we said, well, wait a minute, and we started putting the thumb screws on it. That's whenever the phenomena started backing off, and got to a point where there was no communication whatsoever. And as that in itself was a very revealing thing, because the moment that you stop believing that it was Jim Bob who died in the Civil War and only wants a cigarette, the moment that you start to question that mantra that's being delivered to you, you go, well, wait a minute, Jim who? If you're able to give me the name Jim, Jim who? What is your surname? Give me your surname. Let me check you out. There'll be a record of you. Um, and that's something that needs to be done more. It's really researching what we're dealing with. And if we do not find it, then we go into it with a different mindset. And it'll be interesting to see if the communication still occurs after this is BS. This is something else.
Yeah, that is really interesting. Wow.
I had an encounter years ago, and it was a woman. She was a psychic, and she had it was interesting, the word games that it was playing, uh, because she said that its name was Shanti, and it was Native American. What? never heard tell of that name being used by the Native Americans. I could be wrong. I'm from Ireland, the wrong side of the Atlantic, but I did research into it. I said, no, Shanti is not a name that's used, and yet this person was meant to be in full headdress and everything else. And I started to look at the wordplay, and again, it's the phenomena, it's how it interacts, which was triggering this off. And the wordplay came back down because within the thesauruses and things like that, Shanti is a hot huxtable shed. Shed is a singular of the Shadim, which is a desert demon.
Hmm.
And so Shanti was confronted as being a desert demon from the Middle East. And at that particular point, all hell broke loose. And she left absolutely outraged that we had challenged her uh, angel, if you like, and the whole thing blew up completely. We never saw her again because by that particular point she had already accepted this into her, and we were pointing out the obvious, and it didn't go down well. And that's just some you win, some you lose, but it's got to a point now in my later years, because I do recognize that I've lived more years than I have left. And now I tend to pick my fights, more so than wanting to go out and tackle everything that's negative in the world. I said, no, I'm just gonna sit back here and watch. But yeah, I've met some great people along the way by taking that particular avenue. But it's certainly made for a better life, quieter life.
Yeah, totally. I definitely understand that. I have met so many awesome people in the paranormal field in the last, 6 months. Just and funny enough, just going through social media, I've met all these people through TikTok, Facebook, and when I was researching more and more into doing my article to really break this down and write it all out, and came across that you had, had a very similar theory. I was like, "Oh my god." I'm like, "I wonder if I can actually find him and he'll talk to me." And I I was really surprised that, like, social media wise, I could not find you anywhere, and I finally stumbled across you on Facebook.
Uh-huh.
But it's really humbling just to see, like, yourself and other, investigators that have, been out and about, done this stuff on TV and, like, stepped away from it because of the implications of what TV wants from us.
Mm, mhm.
Um, being like, "Yeah, sure, like, let's have a conversation. Let's talk about this stuff."
Yeah,
And
yeah,
it's awesome. I really, um, appreciate the fact that, there's a lot of really good people out in the paranormal field that just wanna move together in the
yeah.
right direction.
There is a lot of people. A lot of folks now have just went underground.
Mhm.
They do their work and all of that. And those people I'm absolutely in awe with, fascinated, because there's a lot of great work coming out from those folks. And it's not a case of going in and the same questions being asked time and time again. What's your name? How long you dead? Do you know you're dead? And all of those things, that after a period of time it just wears you down, and you say, okay, what else are we going to learn from this? And I think it was something that I spoke to Scott Tepperman about years ago on the show, and because Scott, God bless him, he was always a great guy for bringing in various different bits of little kits that had flashy lights on it. That's all great. It's great for the TV and everything else. But what are we learning from this?
Mhm.
We're learning if it's a spirit. How do you know? How do you know if it's a spirit? What there tells you that it's a spirit? Is it because you're assuming the way the light goes off that it's a spirit? So that could lead you down a very dark road. Um. Yeah, we had many a long chat in those journeys across Europe and around the world. But there you go. That's where we are, and that's what we're doing. So the next book, Born to Serve, As I say, I'm hoping it's going to be out now. It's probably looking like it will be January, February, March, maybe. But it probably will be my last. That's what I will need to say. And then I turn my focus to my granddaughter and go, okay, let's go.
Hey, I completely respect that. I mean it. I would love to be able to shout out your book. So when you're getting ready to put it out, I would be
Yeah,
more than
yeah.
happy to,
I appreciate
put
that.
that. No, of course. The work you're doing and the things you're doing need to be talked about. It needs to be shown, and people need to understand that that's where the paranormal field should be going. It's not a pseudoscience. It's an actuality.
Yeah,
There's actual facts to this, and the like you said, we're running out of people
yeah,
that are
yeah,
willing to
yeah.
do it.
The problem is that there's powers that be that won't like that particular information. I'm not going down a conspiratorial route or anything else, but there are folks there that won't like what I've got to say.
Right. Well, there's always an opposition to every theory.
Yeah, yeah. The unfortunate thing is they're the ones with the money.
I hear you, man. I didn't. I could be a TikToker with 100,000 followers that gets to live off of his social media, but I
Yeah,
refuse to. I refuse to yell and scream at the air and pretend that I'm being hurt.
yeah,
So I
yeah,
completely get you.
yeah. There you go. What's that?
Well, I thank you so much, Barry. This has been an amazing conversation. Um, I've learned so much in the time that we've talked, and I'll definitely tweak kind of some of the stuff I've been writing about with my article. But again, like I said, it's so humbling to be able to talk to you and talk to some of the other people in the field that like I grew up watching on TV and being like, wow, like I want to do what they're doing,
Uh-huh.
and
Uh-huh.
it's amazing because I mean I've reached out to all sorts of different people, and the ones that get back to me are the ones that are like they're the ones I want to talk to. They're the ones that are really doing the research, really looking at the science behind it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And I look forward to your book. I will definitely be looking for it when it comes out. So,
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that.
oh, I'm assuming you have other books out as well.
Oh, I have, yeah. And the last one that came out there was The Deceptions of Gods and Men. And that really started to focus a light on what we're communicating with, or what we thought we were communicating with. So it addresses that, and certainly Born to Serve is I suppose, part two of The Deceptions of Gods and Men. And we'll see how it goes. See how it goes. Thanks anyway, Josh. I really appreciated the conversation. It's refreshing to meet people on the same level.
Yes, yes, very much so. And no, I'll keep in touch. I'll definitely I'll let you know how the almanac is moving forward, and I'll definitely be looking for your book.
Good man.
So,
Good man. Well, we run a magazine there as well. Phenomena magazine. It's one of the world's biggest bilingual magazines for the paranormal and Bigfoot.
oh wow,
It goes out monthly into South America and Brazil and across the rest of the world. So whenever you have the book out, let me know. We'll do a piece on it and see what we can do for you.
that's awesome. I definitely will let you know, and I'll make sure to kind of like I'll look up your books. I'll link it all into here and make sure that people look you up because this, like I said, we need to get more people on this thread, on this thought process,
Yeah.
so that we can't let this die. We can't let this turn into a social media trend that people
It has
go out
happened.
doing.
It has happened many times. Over our generations and generations. It's come in tides, and then we forget, and then we learn it again, and then we forget. It seems to coincide with these damn resets that they keep talking about. We see the information disappear, and then it resurfaces again, along with the phenomena in a new mask. But anyway, look at it. That's neither here nor there. Joshua, it's been a pleasure speaking to you, and
You too, Barry.
we shall keep in touch. You take
Yes,
care.
sir. You too,
All right,
sir.
man.
Thank you.
If you like the podcast so far and you want more content, You can find us over on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, and more, as well as Buy Me a Coffee. Buy Me a Coffee is a one-time payment subscription that gets you exclusive content. But if you're still craving for more after that, you can go over to Patreon. Patreon is a subscription that is a once-a-month payment, and we have the most extra content on Patreon. You can also directly email me at talesfromaghosthunter@yahoo.com. If you want to hear specific content or you want a shout out, go ahead and send me over an email. And thank you to all of you that have subscribed so far. Please keep hitting that like button and leave us some comments over on Apple Music, and we'll talk to you on the next tale.
That was frickin' awesome. Thanks for listening to this totally randomly placed bonus episode. If you'd like to learn more about our guest, check the show notes wherever you listen to the Stories in the Cemetery podcast and connect with them. Are you doing something to the paranormal field as badass as our guest? Want to come chat and brag about your innovations? Reach out to us at storiesinthecemetery@gmail.com with subject line podcast guest, and we'll reach out if you can pique our interest. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts so you don't miss these random bonus episodes.